talking about the budget, how committed is, if this was asked earlier, but can you talk about how committed the president is to having the border wall funded this week, or having some funding in that spending bill? And if it is not in there, will he sign it?
Well, again, those negotiations continue with House and Senate leadership. Obviously, the money for our military and our border security and wall have been part of that request, and that is something that those are the president's priorities heading in, with respect to the CR and keeping the government open. I think we feel very confident where we're headed, and I'm not going to get ahead of the negotiations that are ongoing. Director Mulvaney has been very, very deep in those discussions, and I expect there to be an announcement soon but I'm not going to start to take things on and off the table with respect to what the president may or may not do. Phil.
Yeah, Sean, just doubling up on that question there about the CR debate and the funding. Does he specifically expect there to be funding for the border wall, or would border security measures be enough to satisfy the president? And how do you differentiate between the two? For example, what could be funded in the CR that you could say is part of the wall, even if it's not explicitly
right? So there's obviously a lot of components to that. You've got fencing and drones, and I don't want to get ahead of those negotiations. They are ongoing, but the president's priorities have been very clear from the beginning.
It sounds, Sean, just to follow up, that are we backing off on the wall? Are we saying it is on the table?
No, we're saying that the president has made very clear that he's got two priorities in this continuing resolution. Number one, the increase in funding for the military, and number two, for our homeland and border security and the wall. But I'm not going to start to get into, we were having a negotiation with House and Senate leadership, and to prejudge where it ends up at this point would be, would not be prudent.
When you roll out the tax plan on Wednesday, are you also going to include pay-fors in there? That is, those things that raise revenue as well as those things that are tax cuts, so that conservatives can be confident that this won't blow a hole in the deficit?
Yeah, I think we will have further details. I'm not going to get ahead of the president's rollout, but I'm not going to the level of specificity in terms of the pay-fors and the cost. We'll have to see it, how comfortable the president.
And some other questions on the budget. Is the president willing to sign a continuing resolution that is not deficit neutral or deficit reducing? For instance,
It's not a continuing resolution.
Yes. For instance, a continuing resolution that would increase the deficit.
I have not seen a score on anything that's come out, and I think we'll have to wait and see what the final.
You're not really one way.
I'm not at this point.
Sean, how confident are you that there will not be a shutdown? Can you, from that podium, guarantee that there will not be a government shutdown?
I can't guarantee, but I think that the work that Director Mulvaney and others have made in these negotiations has been very positive. They feel very confident that won't happen.
So he won't insist that his priorities get funded on the border, the wall, increased security?
That's not what I said. I said that I think
Is he willing to shut down the government?
No, it's not. Look, they are currently negotiating. We feel very confident that they understand the president's priorities and that we'll come to an agreement by the end of Friday.
Why is there even discussion about shutting down the government over paying for the wall? Isn't Mexico supposed to pay for the wall?
Well, I think, Jim, the president has made very clear that initially we needed to get the funding going, and there's be several mechanisms to make sure that happens. That funding piece will happen in due time. Alexis.
That is a promise that the
I
president
understand
made
that.
during the campaign
It
time.
is-
and
no,
again,
no, but he
that
also
Mexico would pay for the wall.
Right.
And now we're having a discussion that the
No,
government
we-
might shut down
No,
over the wall.
Who's
gonna pay for it,
right.
you know?
So a couple things. One, as I pointed out to Jonathan, we feel very confident the government's not going to shut down. Number two is I think the president has been very clear in the past about the fact that, and this is not a new thing, he talked about this, that in order to get the ball rolling on border security and the wall, that he was going to have to use the current appropriations process, but he would make sure that promise would be kept as far as the payment of it.
And just a real quick follow-up. If border crossings are down, and that's a talking point that the White House uses time, is the wall even necessary?
Absolutely. The wall it does several things.
How can the border crossings be down?
Because
the
I
president's
think-
saying, well, we're going to have all these drugs flowing in if we don't have a wall.
Because you can't, just because you have a couple good months in a year, I think you want to make sure that you take prudent long-term steps. I mean, so the president is going to fulfill, and frankly, it's a promise that he made to the American people. I think if you're coming in from our southern border, he has taken a lot of steps so far that has deterred border crossing, but this is a permanent step that will extend beyond his presidency. 8 years from now, the next president will have that wall in place to make sure that it doesn't continue. So that
Mexico's going to pay for it.
That's right. Thank you, Alexis.
Sean, this might relate to Jim's question too, but on Wednesday, I have two questions. On Wednesday, when we see the outline that Secretary Mnuchin was just describing, will the president help aim Congress toward his decision about whether the border adjustment tax is the right idea? And also related to that, whether the pay-fors for the wall that might be of interest to lawmakers will become evident as part of the outline of what he'd like to do in terms of taxes.
Right. Well, I don't mean to evade that, but I think there's a reason he chose. We're waiting till Wednesday to have the details that he wants to share out. I'm not gonna. We got a couple days before that happens, so I'm gonna have to ask you to wait 48 hours.
Can you say whether we will have a generally better
I'm gonna-
idea?
I can
Will
tell
we
you-
have a generally better idea of where he?
I think
is
you'll have a
thinking
better
is?
idea of where the president stands on tax reform and what he wants to accomplish. Yes.